What qualities does Wayne have that made you want to name him? And does he have quite a lot to live up to?
Well, I'm afraid he has a lot to live up to because, you know, the previous captains of England have been, you know, top men. If I go through the recent ones, you know, the Robsons and the Beckhams and the Gerrards, the Lampards when he's captained the team. There's some really big names and people in quite important midfield positions as well quite often. So he's got an awful lot to live up to, but he knows that. And I've seen a mature Wayne Rooney during my 2 years' work. I found him mature when I first met him 2 years ago, and if anything, the experiences we've had together have matured him even more, and there's another 20, 30 caps added to his previous caps. So I think it's the right choice. I think he's the right man. I think he'll take on the job with enormous enthusiasm, with enormous responsibility. And what he needs, of course, is to be a captain of a winning team and a team that's got some good players around him that can excite everybody. And we'll only do that when we, A, win matches, and when we, B, in particular, get to a final tournament and do a lot better than we were able to do on this occasion.
Does this make him undroppable in your eyes?
Well, that's a tricky one, isn't it, with captains? You know, when you name a captain, I suppose, especially a position as important as England captain, that does go through your head that, you know, in making the player a captain, it's going to make it a lot harder if I ever want to drop him. But I don't think he would expect me, if he wasn't playing well enough or if he wasn't able to do the job that we wanted him to do, to keep him in the team just because he's captain. I think he would accept that day that I'd have to honestly say to him, I'm sorry, Wayne, I know I made you captain, but I don't think you're playing well enough at the moment. I'm leaving you out. It would be a tough thing to do, and it's not something you would do lightly, but I'd like to think that A, if it was necessary, I would do it, and B, I'm pretty convinced he would accept it. Well, I think you should ask him, really. I mean, you'll have every chance. The short version, I suppose, of a half-an-hour conversation is what he said was he was really pleased that I'd chosen him, and he was desperate to do the job as well as he thinks Stephen has done it in the last couple of years, and that will be his aim and his focus. Let's be fair, you know, I wasn't springing it on somebody who'd never given it a thought that maybe the captaincy will come my way, so. You know, it didn't take him 5 minutes to gather his breath, but I think it's important that you ask him. I got the answers from him, certainly, that I was looking for. They were the answers I expected, but it was nice to hear them coming from his mouth and face to face, eyeball to eyeball.
Without Steven Gerrard and without Frank Lampard, what is the emotion as you go forward here, Roy? Trepidation or excitement that new faces can now make a mark for England?
I don't think there's any reason for trepidation. I think that these players that we're bringing into the squad, and don't forget, you know, this time there's no Walcott, there's no Barkley, there's no Lallana, all of whom have shown already that they're a serious part of what we want to do going forward. I don't see any reason for us to be fearful in any way, but on the other hand, it is going to be exciting and to some extent anxious moments for us all to see how these players can step up. And we've been a bit unlucky that our opening qualifier is probably, at least on paper, the most difficult fixture we have, and we're going to sort of confront that, if you like, with a lot of players who will have to assume an awful lot of responsibility without maybe getting the softer introduction that maybe could have come their way had we had some qualifiers against somewhat lesser teams beforehand.
But tell us specifically, say, Jack Colback, for example, what have you seen in him?
I was quite impressed the other day when we read someone who knows him well up there called him the Ginger Pirlo. I thought that was quite good. That would be delightful if that epithet turns out to be the correct one. But I was impressed with him last year playing at Sunderland. I thought he did very well, and then he got the transfer to Newcastle, and we followed him in both of the two opening games. I was at Aston Villa, Newcastle. I think he's got an awful lot to offer. A very talented player, and it's one that at the moment where suddenly we've lost three important central midfield players in Gerrard, Lampard and Carrick. He plays in a position where vacancies could easily arise, and it'd be good to see how he can get on.